Great. Good afternoon, everyone. We'll let everyone get seated. My name is Jehan Chu, and thank you to Brian and the whole D.FINE team and Gabriel for having us. We're excited to be talking about investment. I know it's a subject that keeps everybody on the edge of their seats. I know it does for us. But of course, we're doing this kind of conversation with somewhat of a cloud over us. The price of Bitcoin and the entire crypto market has been quite depressed for the last kind of week with some severe kind of downdrafts with a little bit of sun peeking through the clouds this morning. We'll see if it lasts. But it really does raise a whole lot of questions about the future of investments, the future of crypto. And I guess what our purpose today is to really shed a little bit of light on how we as investors and VCs are looking at the space and where we see it going and what the opportunities potentially are for other investors and also other startups. So without further ado, what I'm going to do is just ask everybody to just go down the line. We're not going to spend a whole lot of time on kind of background, et cetera. We're going to be really quick. And please tell me who you are, what is your fund, and what does it do, what does it focus on? And then if you don't mind, name your last public investment.
My name is Lasse Clausen. I'm one of the founding partners of 1KX. We're an early stage token network investor. So we actually invest exclusively in open source software networks that are tokenized. We don't want anything that has a traditional business model. And we're based in Berlin. And the last investment we did is Nexus Mutual. It's a mutual insurance on Ethereum where you can buy cover against the risk of smart contracts failing. And I think that's something we really need.
I love that because we invested in that too.
Nice.
Hi, my name is Steve from Block Tower Capital. We are a crypto hedge fund based in New York. We invest in both token and equity investments. Previously, I worked for Goldman Sachs for 8 years in Tokyo and Singapore. Latest investment we did is, I can't name the projects, but we invested in one gaming project out of South Korea.
My name's Tom Lee. I'm the co-founder of Fundstrat. We are not a hedge fund or an investment fund. We provide research advisory services to mutual funds and hedge funds. We have 150 clients in 16 countries. So in terms of our last public investment, we have none. Our firm does not invest.
My name is Jay Liang. I am the founding chairman for Hong Kong Blockchain Association. Everybody is scared by Hong Kong at this moment, but I guarantee your safety there for sure. But I'm also running my own family office with focus in token, and I'm the investment partner and founding partner for GSR Capital Digital Asset Fund, which has invested in fintech-related blockchain technologies, such as T0, virtual bank like G-Rock, and also global stocks in Hong Kong.
Great. So, and just on my side, Kenetic, we are a Hong Kong-based fund. We're one of the earlier funds in Asia. We've invested in over 120 projects from equity to tokens, and we have an equity fund where our last public investment was Securitize, a security token issuance exchange, issuance platform led by MUFG and Santander. So let's jump into it. I think the most kind of pressing question on many people's minds is, what is going on with the market, and where do you see it going in the next 6 to 12 months? So, Tom, I'm going to start with you because you're often quoted and very well regarded in terms of your analysis. So, what's your view?
I think the next 6 to 12 months is actually going to be really positive for digital assets and crypto. A lot of it, I think, really depends on what happens with Bitcoin. So I think if any of you guys in crypto think Bitcoin doesn't matter, you have to remember it is really one of the center pieces of sort of bringing traditional retail money and institutions into the digital assets market. And I think there's a lot of good things happening. I mean, the most important next year is the halvening, but something that I think that was positive that just happened was really the SEC action around EOS, because it ended up proving to be not a death blow to the project, and I think I would say looks a lot like a somewhat regulatory friendly move. And if you ask me, maybe the biggest risk in the next 12 months, I think the White House remains the single biggest threat to Bitcoin, because they've clearly shown antagonism towards Bitcoin, but if it's an election, if it's going to help Trump in 2020, I think there's a possibility he would ban Bitcoin. But at the moment, it's obviously not really central to his 2020 reelection.
Well, who knows? I mean, Trump banning Bitcoin could have the reverse effect. No such thing as bad press. Steve, what do you think? I mean, you're on the hedge fund side. You guys are trading actively. Like, how are you seeing the kind of market from an activity standpoint, and where do you see it going?
So if I take it back a little bit, I would say I'll approach more supply-demand context. So I think from last year, from November or so, we see that a lot of the token holders who hold the Bitcoin for a long time actually does start to sell it. From the beginning of this year, since we know we can designate the wallet address for the OG, those like those miners' wallet, so we see that selling is almost exhausted. And then at the same time, a lot of institutional clients, institutional investors, individual family office start to tapping in the space that actually creates the demands. So I think that's why I think April 1st, the price was about 4K, and then June, it hits the 14K, and now it's back at 8K. Everyone's disappointed, but it's still 2x from the beginning of this year. And then definitely I think positive momentum is still going on. And then because I was working in Goldman as a trader, so if I just approach a little bit macro context, you see that a lot of Chinese yuan depreciation is a relationship with the Bitcoin. Of course, it's not a clear relationship, but definitely compared to the past, we see the more clear relationship between Chinese yuan depreciation and the price Bitcoin. And then I think the narrative that a lot of traditional hedge fund might have in next 6 or 12 months is this concern around the currency depreciation. So I think it's going to be small narrative, but as Ray Dalio, the biggest hedge fund manager in the world, mentioned, I think some of people might pick up this narrative, and then people will start to see Bitcoin as the digital gold, and then they might start to kind of pile the Bitcoin in the space. And lastly, the Libra, everyone's excited about it, but if I just put a little negative concern around it is, I think Libra can be too private, that facilitating money laundering, but also not too private, that actually damaging the personal private rights.
Yep.
But said that, definitely Libra is very positive impact the cryptocurrency. Just one example I will share is the day that Libra is launched, I got like 3 different messages on LinkedIn from the biggest conglomerates in Japan and Korea. So these are the people that I had a relationship for several years. They had no interest in blockchain for a long time. But after this Libra is launched, they just keep asking, hey, Steve, like, what is this Libra?
Sure.
Steve, do you have a contact? Steve, what should I do? So I asked them, do you know how the Libra works? They had no idea.
Well, it's good that it pushes the conversation forward.
What I'm saying is there's a little bit of formal context in the enterprise space, so definitely they will actually put the positive context on the whole cryptocurrency ecosystem.
Lasse, what do you think? I mean, you're on the front lines of tokens specifically, token focused. Do you buy this whole kind of argument about Bitcoin kind of recovering and maybe drawing some of the alts with it? How do you see the market?
So something we've seen, been in the space for a long time, and we see these very, very intense cycles of like 6 to 12 months where crypto sort of has these themes. And 2017, it was Ethereum, it was ICOs, then the theme was the bear market, everybody was depressed and selling, everything went down. Now we have this theme of like Bitcoin dominance. And so we think more long term. We're more like a venture investor. So what matters for us is that talent comes in, right? So this is really always the most important signal. Is actually, do you get this 1% type of best engineers in the world? Are they intrinsically motivated? They're sick and tired of optimizing ads for Facebook and Google. They want to do something that is meaningful. And we just talked with an engineer who's leaving Baidu now, because in crypto, the big companies can't touch it yet. So that leaves actually an open playing field for young people to innovate and own the space. If you're a normal Web 2.0 entrepreneur, you really can't do anything anymore against Google and Facebook and their network effects. So what we see is that incredible talent is coming into the space every day. The technology is getting better. There's breakthroughs on many different fronts. So that's how we like to look at it. I think personally, if I look at the Bitcoin price every day, it drives me crazy, so I don't do that.
Yeah, that's probably advisable. And Jay, what do you think? I mean, from your vantage point as a family office, what's the kind of sentiment out there in terms of appetite for Bitcoin or appetite for the space generally?
Yeah, from my own eyes, I separated the virtual asset into two categories. The one side is a cryptocurrency. I'm quite cautious for the next 12 months. The real reason will be the regulatory reason. We all know that FATF has a recommendation for all the countries to implement their rules on cryptocurrency trading, especially the travel rule. And the fund travel rule would, I would say, incur a lot of expenses for startup companies, and will also possibly give exchanges a lot of headache there. So in next 12 months, I believe that the cryptocurrency may face a bit of correction, or possibly in current level. However, after the market is cleared up, I would say SEC has been doing so, FCA or Hong Kong SFC have been also doing so as well. And then the institutional investors would jump in, and we will see a better future for Bitcoin price as well. And the other side, of course, is the securities token, which we have focused quite a lot. Well, I would say that the fintech-related blockchain applications will be flourishing in the next 12 months. We see KYC requirements there. We see a lot of automation applications for KYC, for banks, for traders, for logistic companies, as well as the cryptocurrency exchanges as well. So we will see a lot more applications in that area. And I would rather encourage the entrepreneurs to put more focus in that area, and that's the real future to go. And also, I would say, of course, everybody is worried about the securities tokens liquidity. I would say in the next 2 years or 3, you'll see more good companies to go for securities offering.
Sure.
Yeah, actually, everybody, just as of today, the Silicon Valley investors had a summit there to discuss an option to do direct listing. We heard about direct listing in 2004, 2005 when Google was doing so. And in the future, you possibly will see more direct listing, and securities token might be the best way to go for. And we will see better companies to go for securities token offering, and therefore you'll see a lot more investors to jump on that area as well.
Yeah.
Liquidity won't be an issue, and it's really the fundamental that's the issue.
Sure. Well, let's hope. I mean, we're at Kenetic. I mean, we have a similar view to many people here. We're quite bullish on the space longer term. We take a long-term view. And for me, I mean, when my friends are asking me, should I buy Bitcoin now? I mean, I think it's possible that we see maybe we touch below 7 a little bit and then rally back. Obviously, the crypto markets are always kind of swinging back and forth and back and forth. But we think that always buying the dips is always a very good thing in our space, as long as you have a long-term view. And I agree on the security token space that one of the things I like to say is that the security token is not a wave. It's really the ocean beneath. The entire capital market's being tokenized and adding liquidity and volume and pace, I think, is interesting. One of the other kind of indicators of market health, other than the price and other than the volumes, which are admittedly down, is quality. And I think that as long-term investors, the quality of the deals really can tell us, like, are we in a bad place or are we headed to a good place? So Lasse, let's start with you. How do you feel about the quality of deals that you're seeing, either on, I assume that you see both token and equity, you just only invest in token, right? What are you seeing in terms of like founders and kind of just good quality deals you might want?
Yeah, so average quality has gone up a lot for two reasons. Obviously, a lot less projects now. It's actually worked to raise money as a founder. In 2017, it really wasn't. But also the founders themselves get significantly better. They have much more traction actually. Whereas like 2016, a 3-year time roadmap, mainnet in 3 years, like very far down the road. Now you get investment opportunities where there's a clear hockey stick in real world usage and real adoption, and investable at very reasonable valuations.
Well, what's a reasonable valuation these days, do you think? Let's call it like a.
Well, I know what's unreasonable. I would say like pre-launch 100 million, 50 million is very unreasonable. I think anything depending
that's unconscionable. That's not unreasonable.
That's unreasonable. I do think something to consider is that for crypto networks, you are looking for more distributed owner base than in equity. So I think saying, typical startups raise in the Valley at 10 million seed, therefore all token networks and seeds should be 10 million. I think that calculation doesn't work out because you don't want that capital concentration. Plus, if it's good token networks, actually they will, or the idea, at least our belief is that some of those will actually significantly surpass the valuation of any for-profit typical company ever before. So valuations down, teams are better, more traction, very positive.
Great. Steve?
Yes, I totally agree. I would just put that specific example. So as a crypto hedge fund, we were always looking for trading platform and custody solution for past 8 months. That means that we met a lot of projects working on these two spaces. But until 2 months ago, we actually didn't use any of them, almost none. So in terms of the quality of project, yes, the quality of the projects in the two fields gets much better improved. So we are fascinated. Finally, we start using our third-party custody solutions. Because for the funds like us, we have a lot of investors, institutional level of investors. The number one that the concern they have is basically this custody solutions. So in that sense, yes, they are much improving a lot of sense. And the gaming space we are excited about, they are much better quality gaming projects are being out of, especially in this region.
Yeah, that's great. From our side, actually, I think the quality side on the equity is quite good. I mean, we've done 7 deals this year, and we have a full pipeline of things we want to be investing in. So we're seeing things that are worthwhile. But thinking about things from going back to the token side of things, Tom, Korea has always been a really massive retail market. I mean, these days, you can look at the crowd, right? A lot of people are here thinking about fundraising, thinking about trying to tap the retail market because at certain points, it was one of the most exciting kind of places to try and raise capital for token. What are you seeing now? How do you feel about the Korean market for projects in terms of raising capital, in terms of doing, not ICOs, but different types of raises?
I think the markets that are really important to crypto are U.S., Korea, Japan, in some ways because that's really where a lot of the development has taken place, and of course China and Asia. But I think Korea and Japan and the U.S. have all suffered incrementally because there has been, I think, more regulatory burden rather than less. So I think it's one reason why I think volumes in Korea have been lower, and we no longer see the kimchi premium. And but I don't think it's really necessarily stopped innovation. I just think it's things have slowed down a lot. I was just at a summit in Canada, and I met one of the projects that's about to get launched. I think it's quite promising because it's going to be on an existing platform, but. For the most part, I think crypto is still in the process of sobering because there are a number of people that got involved with, different projects over the past 2 years, and, some of that's going to end up being stranded capital. It doesn't mean any of those ideas are wasted. It just means it may need to be restructured.
You mentioned China, and Jay, obviously, we live in Hong Kong. We're right across the border. We are sovereign-wise part of China. How do you kind of see the market in China? Obviously, the crypto market supposedly is banned, but we all know that's not actually true. There's a lot of transactions. From an equity side and an adoption side, how do you feel about China? What do you think the audience here should be aware of that they don't know about the blockchain and crypto market in China?
Well, very interesting that China has 2 sides as well. On the government side, we see the government has tightened up the rules since September 4th of 2017. And however, the blockchain communities and the cryptocurrency communities have been flourishing ever since then on. I believe there are quite a few reasons there. Number one is innovative drive. We see a lot of entrepreneurs put efforts in that area, and they have achieved a great deal of technology innovations. And number 2 is, I would say, the currency side. Since China has entered into the trade war against the U.S., the currency, RMB currency rate is actually, exchange rate has been dropping last 2 years. A lot of people look for overseas diversification and also look for hedging against their RMB holding. So they have to invest into cryptocurrency. So the investment activities outside of the government has been quite strong. And interesting enough, last 2 or 3 months, ever after Libra was announced, and Chinese central government has also indicated that they want to issue central bank digital currency, and that's a major news amongst the communities there. And we see also a losing situation on the regulatory side. The government actually has loosened up the regulations on the cryptocurrency. In Beijing, you can see big conferences there without interference by the police or security people there. And in the Greater Bay Area, you see a lot more activities, not only from the cryptocurrency community, but also from the government side. More and more activities there. So we will see a better situation in Greater Bay Area. Of course, Hong Kong has been always a free place. So don't be scared by the protests in Hong Kong. Everything is fine.
I agree. I've never smelled any tear gas. It's much safer
but
than it
anyway,
looks on
what
TV.
I'm saying there, Hong Kong has been flourishing ever since September of 2017. We have a huge community of the conventional financial investors. And you say all those investors are paying attention to DLT technologies and blockchain technologies as well. And many of them are also trying to put money into cryptocurrency as well.
Yeah,
so I would
definitely still a
encourage
good
you
place
to
to
go
kind
to
of raise
Hong Kong
capital.
for our financial fintech festival next month. And we also have a Hong Kong Blockchain Association Summit in December. So we welcome you there. Both Jehan and I will be there
I love the
hosting
promotion
you.
of Hong Kong. When you leave scenic Korea, please come to Hong Kong. But let's keep moving. So you mentioned this kind of the central bank digital currency, or CBDC. And I think Libra and all these other types of stable coins, like obviously Terra is just kind of tearing it up over here, no pun intended, as a stable coin. So as investors and analysts, what do we think about this kind of seemingly very fast-moving phenomenon of cryptos as currencies? So you have the CBDCs, you have the Libras, you have the stable coins that we all know and love. You also have like Walmart and Allianz and JP Morgan, who are all creating coins. What does that mean? Like, how do you react to this as like an investor? Like, are there opportunities for these cryptos as currencies?
I think the good thing is that we've learned, I think over the last year and a half, that actually an investment asset like Bitcoin or Ethereum is a terrible medium of exchange. Right? If you know, when people used to invest in ETH and fight about because it went up 10%, like this makes no sense, right? So now we have a range of stable coins, from the very decentralized to something like DAI to something where we don't even know how much money is there, Tether, but Tether has social consensus in China, so it works, right? I know that tomorrow I can sell 20 million worth of Tether to someone, so it's fine, I'll accept it.
Faith-based currency.
Yes, right, and which Tether is, and it's very successful at that. I think it's number 4 now. And I think Facebook Libra was extremely interesting because it it got a lot of urgency. Like the Chinese government has been working on the digital coin for like 5 years, and all of a sudden now they announced that it's ready and it's better than Facebook. So I think it really injected a lot of pressure and like competition. And just personally, I love it that the government has competition for money now.
That's a good point.
France and Germany were not very forward-looking. They made a statement that they're going to ban basically stable coins. There's no private money allowed other than the government. It's the sovereign
European.
right. It sounds European. It might also just be, personally, I do agree that Libra is a corporate cartel. It's not a cryptocurrency. And I think they created the basis to keep them at bay. I don't think, I can buy DAI on Coinbase as a European. I don't think that'll be enforced.
I think those the banks and enterprise coins, I'll maybe separate them. But I think that's so positive because I think the main problem in cryptocurrency right now for adoption is still like people outside this conference or outside cryptocurrency ecosystem, they don't trust us or they don't trust what we build. So I think even though we are talking about trustless protocol, but I think we are missing trust from general public. So by having this enterprise like SK or Samsung, Hana, all those big corporates jumping in and making their own token or their platforms, or this central bank is making their own token, I think general public who don't believe in us or don't believe in cryptocurrency yet, I think they will be making the HODL lower. So I think in terms of adoption, the pathway to the adoption we are missing so bad, I think it's definitely a positive impact. In terms of central bank coin, I think I'm not sure whether it's good or bad. But definitely, I see that more macro view. Again, I keep looking at the market as a more macro, as a traditional way. But definitely, there's some conflict between U.S. and China on the way, I think. So I think Libra is still like a U.S. firm, and then Chinese central bank is Chinese one. I don't know how this plays out, but definitely there's some conflict. And then how people like us will help them resolve this conflict will definitely make the impact on how the cryptocurrency will evolve.
Tom, cryptocurrencies, what do you think?
Yeah, I think it's all good. I mean, it's good that there's digital money and different forms. I think Bitcoin is digital money, and stable coins are stable. But I think what gets lost in people's sort of concepts of money is that they think it's primarily used to buy goods and services. Like, so I think everyone's like, oh, well, what's the use of something because you can't buy a Starbucks coffee with it? It's important to look at how traditional money is used. So if you looked at dollars today, it's used for 20 trillion of it is used every year for the economy, and that includes both for exports and imports and buying coffee, gasoline, and buildings and goods. That same dollar trades 96 times on a currency exchange as a form of speculation to either speculate on the price of the dollar or to buy a financial asset. So what is the primary use of fiat money today? It's to speculate on the price of something else. And so, you know, stable coins are interesting, but at the end of the day, you have to remember, stable coins aren't going to be used to buy goods. They're primarily going to be used to speculate on a digital asset. So I think ultimately, stable coins are actually really good for cryptocurrency prices.
Definitely sounds like an opportunity. Jay, what do you think on these kind of like stablecoins / CBDCs?
Well, I agree with Steve that the conflicts between Libra and the Chinese central bank and digital currency might play out in a confrontation way. However, I would say this is all good for the crypto community. In the future, you'll see Libra would enable 2.7 billion people to have a digital currency wallet. That's incredible. And you see a huge population which has the cryptocurrency wallet would be able to receive the Bitcoin or Ethereum or whatever tokens you are developing here. And that would be the real beginning of digital economy. So either the Chinese central bank digital currency or the Libra would prepare the way for a better digital economy for sure. And I would say that's a better off situation for everybody here as well.
Thanks. Steve, you mentioned adoption, and I think we're about to run out of time, so I want to kind of finish on this. Someone was asking, I think the interview out today, were asking me about, what do you think is the kind of greatest trend for 2020? And I had to say, like, it's not a technical trend, it's really an adoption trend. And I think the only thing that really gives me kind of hope in terms of where we are now in this market is that we're starting to see companies with real adoption and real 7 or even 8 figures of users that are coming online.
Especially here in Korea.
And especially here in Korea, that's exactly right. So, let's end on a high note, right? Let's talk about like one company that you think, inside your portfolio or outside your portfolio that you've seen who's really effectively driving adoption of blockchain and crypto. And let's name and fame them.
Number one, Terra worldwide. Absolutely
Totally.
number one.
Amazing.
I think he's on afterwards. Should definitely listen to it. This is unparalleled. I think.
What do you like about it? Like, what do we like about
It's
Terra?
because it's really driving real-world adoption and creating the bridge from crypto. Merchants and end users have a hard time interacting with crypto with the protocol itself. That has never happened with the internet either, right? If you use WhatsApp, there's a ton of software in the middle that lets you interact with the protocol. For crypto, we were expecting that everyone would run their own Lightning node at home. This is not going to happen.
They're not? Oh, okay.
No. And so this is what Terra has done exceptionally well. They made it very, very easy for merchants to integrate it. They made it extremely easy for end consumers to connect their bank account, and in the background, it actually buys their stablecoin, and nobody even knows about it. And so...
Are you an investor in Terra?
We're an investor in Terra. And,
I'm also an investor in Terra, so full disclosure.
Great investment. And I think it's really going to be the most used blockchain by the end of the year, I think.
Awesome. Steve?
Okay, so our compliance is very strict, so I can't name the project, but the gaming project we recently closed out of South Korea. This one, I'm very excited. As you guys, many of you guys are excited. I really believe in this virtual world and the real world that will be connected through this blockchain gaming industry. And the one that we invested in is they have plug-in the platform that has biggest users of this country. And then they already proven their specific platform game as a lot of users for past 6 months. So a lot of games now is using the private blockchain, off-chain transaction, but this one built on-chain, they proved the track record, but they have now its biggest platform in South Korea to be launched.
Great. Tom?
I mean, I think I just want to answer this a little differently because I think the big theme everyone said this year was institutional adoption of crypto, and I think we're going to exit this year and institutional adoption didn't happen. I mean, there have been sort of plumbing that's taking place from backed, and there's more volume on the CME futures. But again, we deal with 150 traditional financial institutions, 4,000 portfolio managers on our distribution list. So I would say we, at the epicenter of really understanding what these guys are doing. And I think institutions are not going to adopt crypto until there's regulatory cover for them to do so. So I think if you had to say, how does Bitcoin get to its all-time high in the next, 12, 24 months, I think it's primarily going to be a retail-driven story. And that's not such a bad thing because I think retail market could still grow vastly in the US for crypto. I think it's still freakishly very small. I think people are overestimating how many people actually own Bitcoin.
Great. Jay?
Well, I have invested quite a lot of startups in Greater Bay Area, and there's particularly one company in Hong Kong I would mention. It's a company with a focus to enable the conventional investors to use the KYC platform. And it also offers a bridge between conventional investor and the crypto community as well. So that platform would enable the conventional investor easily to have a grasp of the cryptocurrency investment and easily to execute their orders at the best price and best volume. So that's a company called Global Stocks in Hong Kong. I encourage you to deal with them in the future as well. And most of all, I think the compliance will be something you have to be careful of in the future. This company has put a lot of efforts in compliance area. They are applying to Sandbox in Hong Kong SFC, and they are also getting license in Singapore and also Switzerland as well. So those are the areas you have to be careful in the future. The compliance issue, sooner or later, we have to face it.
Cool. And from our side, I think lots already said Terra. So I'll follow in and say Forte, Kevin is going to be giving a speech, the gaming keynote. I agree with Steve's kind of thesis around the gaming, and especially here in Korea. And I think what Forte is doing in terms of bringing on some of the world's most exciting and kind of large communities of gamers through creating tokenized loops and tokenized crypto economies inside of existing games is really kind of meeting the market, going to the market rather than kind of trying to pull over to people to blockchain. So that's kind of where I think the adoption is really going to be kind of quite fruitful. That's all the time we have. I want to thank Lasse, Steve, Tom, and Jay for their time, and thank you very much for your attention. Cheers.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Good to see you again.